Hey, welcome into the Blitz. I guess this will be Unrivaled's high school football podcast. I'm Joey. I'm here with Cayne. Cayne, what's going on, man?
Man, not a whole lot. Excited about high school football.
Yeah. Well, we got a pretty good taste of it starting Thursday last week. Thursday and Friday rolled into some pretty decent matchups across the lower half of the state. Some big time matchups. I guess the big one in our area would have been Gulf Shores and St. Michael's. Caught the about the end of the second quarter of that one. Got to watch those kids play for a few minutes, and uh, they got some big playmakers out there. Some returners from last year. They got a couple other kids, but they look pretty good in their win over St. Michael's.
Yeah, I thought so too. Gulf Shores has a lot of experience.
Hmm.
They're really good on the edges. They got a lot of speed in the back end. It's going to be really difficult for people to break a lot of long plays against them. St. Michael's, it's obviously not the toughest person on their schedule, but they did what they were supposed to do and basically got out of there by halftime in reality, and let a lot of kids play. But they're going to be they're going to be tough to deal with just because they're able to throw it out there and hand it off to really good players right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess were they ranked seventh going into that game, or I think they're ranked seventh now in the state,
They
or in
were nine going
they
in,
were
and
nine.
now I think they've bumped up to eight. And really, that's just because the top 10 in Class 5A, they're all the same. Like nobody dropped out. It's leads lost, and they went from like 6 to 10 and kind of pushed everybody up. But
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah, the final, and that was 41-20. Like you said, I mean, it was pretty much. I mean, it was 27-0 at half. So
yeah,
they were able to play a lot of other kids. They do have this kid, and kind of talking to. Uh, uh, he's on the staff at Gulf Shores now, but he's kind of a close family friend. And I was kind of talking to him about the quarterback situation. He thinks that the freshman Judd Harris is probably going to end up being the guy at Gulf Shores for the rest of the season. I know they got that senior. Can't think of his name, but
yeah.
which didn't have a bad game, but I think they're really kind of leaning towards the freshman Judd.
That's
So
that's exciting because
yeah,
it's a for him it's like the perfect situation because he has really good players to hand the ball to. He doesn't have to do everything, and
yeah,
defensively, Gulf Shores is they're very tough defensively, especially in that front seven.
yeah,
If they can continue to help out, just keep their corners and stuff fresh and play a lot of one-on-one stuff and keep enough dudes in the box, they'll be okay. Stopping
yeah.
the run.
Um, yeah, like you said on defense, they did. They were. Like you said, it wasn't the toughest game on their schedule. They're obviously going to have some more challenges, but I mean, it was a good open and win for them. Defense looked good. I think it was until the freshmen started playing late in the half. I mean, St. Michael's didn't score till late in the third, maybe. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but yeah, there was a couple other games on that Thursday night too. I have to kind of move some things around, but I think Fairhope was it Fairhope played on Thursday, and then Foley played on Friday. I know Foley.
Yeah, so let's just some of our local games for the most part is Fairhope and Spanish Fort played on the first week of the season. Fairhope beat them this year, and they beat them last year too. And I watched the game, and really Fairhope has a lot of speed on the edges, which is I guess surprising, but at the same time, I expected them to be better up front. But both of those teams, in my opinion, and just in general, I mean, the region's not very difficult, and so they're going to win a lot of games. But playoff wise, it's going to be very difficult for them unless they get offensive line going because both of them are very average there. They're both handing off the decent running backs, and Fairhope does a great job of throwing the ball to screens on the edges, and they got kids who can really run. There were several. Like they would throw a quick screen out to the wide side of the field and take it 30 yards or something
Yeah,
several times in a row. And Spanish Fort really didn't do a good job of adjusting to it. But I mean, I don't know. They'll win games, but they're not going to beat any
this,
really good teams in the playoffs.
yeah, they're not the. They're kind of dropped a little bit from the Spanish Fort we used to
100%.
hearing about the last couple of years. Yeah, it looked like another one. That was really the only one. Daphne beat Murphy 19-0, and then and I honestly I didn't even know Op had a football team, but the Andalusia put a hurting on them, and so that was kind of it on the Thursday night games for the Metro area.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
Friday, Prattville came down, and Foley looked pretty good. I watched a little bit of that one. They got like that. What's the kid's name committed to Auburn? Wide receiver.
Yeah, big wide receiver. He really had a quiet night. He only had like 4 receptions for like 20 yards, but he threw a touchdown, and I think he might have rushed for a touchdown too. So it sounded quiet for him because he could definitely go for like 200 yards at any given time, but he threw one. They handed it to him on a couple of jet sweeps and stuff like that, which is fine, but they didn't really need him. I mean, Prattville is kind of reeling right now. They're not very good at this point in life. So Foley did exactly what they were supposed to do. And this week too, I mean, they played Baldwin County, and they're going to score 50 points on Baldwin County. But the great thing about Foley is what makes them so difficult is the running back they have to hand the ball off to. The dude looks like a little bowling ball.
Yeah.
And up front, they're pretty decent. And so the kid had like 20-something carries. And so the big wideout, he really doesn't have to win the game. The deal is he's going to have to win the game somewhere, but he doesn't have to do it the whole night. And eventually people will get tired from that kid run the ball 25 times a game. And if they ever leave the guy one-on-one on the outside, they're just going to throw it up to him, and there's nobody in that region who can cover him. I mean, I don't expect Foley to lose a game in that region this year, to be honest with you, from what I saw.
Yeah. And they're 7A, so I mean, they've got some competition outside of the region, but
no, I mean, they should go, was it like 7-0 in that region? The problem is, first round of the playoffs, even if they win the region, they're either going to get Enterprise or Dothan again, just like they did last year, and I think, Dothan beat them up there, and the kid ran the ball like 80 times or 400 yards against them or something. But, that's the whole problem with that region down there is it really doesn't, if you're not the 1 seed, then you're either playing Central Phoenix, Auburn, or Enterprise. And Enterprise beat Eufaula by 50 points, and Eufaula is usually pretty sporty. So I imagine Enterprise has got turned around. So,
yeah. What else we got on? Let's see.
Let's see the other ones.
I saw St. Paul's that they beat UMS Wright. That's 14-7. It's hard to go into UMS Wright win there, but they were able to come away with that one.
UMS Wright looked a little different. I know that's going to be Gulf Shores, one of their 2 top games, them and Faith Academy. And so just looking at them, they had a kid who played safety for them last year as number 1. Last name is Light. Oh, no, number 1. And he ended up playing quarterback for UMS Wright. And really, I think if they were to replay that game, they'd let him carry the ball a lot more. They'd let him throw it a little bit too much. And St. Paul's just gigantic. Like their defensive line, offensive line, they're huge. And they weren't very impressive offensively, but really they never have been since but in several years, since they lost like 5-star wide receivers and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, St. Paul's, they're going to win games because they're going to be well coached, but UMS Wright, they're not. I think they're going to have a lot tougher time this year with Faith and Gulf Shores than they did last year, just because they don't have a true quarterback back there, and they're letting the athletic kid try to do it.
Gotcha.
And he's under center the whole night. It's not like he's in Wildcat or shotgun. He's under center, and so he's either booting out or he's dropping back trying to throw the thing deep, and that's just not – he hadn't played quarterback. That's not him. He's been playing defensive back his last 3 years.
I think they come to Gulf Shores in 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. 2 or 3 weeks. So it'll be early.
You're going to see about them. They play T.R. Miller this week. And you're about to figure out who that is, because if they're any good, because T.R. Miller beat Hillcrest Evergreen, and they're as athletic as anybody in the state.
Wow.
And so UMS Wright's going to have to play a team that's probably more athletic than they are, and is in T.R. Miller, and they got to go to T.R. Miller, and T.R. Miller's going to run the ball as much as they will. And I mean, we'll see. I think it's going to tell a lot about them. That's a really good game to have early in the year.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw Faith Academy. I'm not sure who they play. I don't know who JAG is or JD.
It's a renamed school from Montgomery. They used to be some Montgomery something, but it's like Johnson A. Something.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the G stands for, but they
Gump.
Yeah, I mean they just they got guys out there and stuff, and they were really athletic. I was surprised because they used to not being good at all, but they were actually very athletic on the outside. It's just teams like that can't just sustain drives, and they do ridiculous stuff. And like Faith Academy is the first drive of the game. Jag throws a little ball out throws a screen, and it's televised for everybody in the whole stand knows it's coming. And the kid from Faith picks it off and runs it back like 70 yards, and he fumbles it at the 2-yard line. I don't know, like nobody was even around him. He just dropped it or fumbled it or something, and Faith ends up scoring. But Faith has a kid. He's number 7, and you can write this down. He may end up he's going 100% is going to be an all-state player. Number 2, he may be the player of the year in 5A because he took every single punt he touched. He took it back for a touchdown, and most of them got called back for clipping or holding or something. But it wasn't because he broke like 7 tackles before any of that ever happened. It looked like Calvin Johnson running around. So he's huge. And plays wide receiver. I mean, he's a giant running around out there in the field. But you can mark it down. I don't know his name. I'm gonna look him up. But if you watch him whenever they come to town for the Gulf Shores game,
yeah,
you better not punt to him. I'm telling you that. You better not punt it to him. It's gonna be a bad idea.
So that's Faith Academy.
Yeah. And again, I said this last year about them. The difference between Faith and these other schools is when the ball runs to the other sideline, all 11 of those guys, their whole intention of life is going to go hit that guy. And most people, it's really hard to coach that for high school kids to say, hey, you're 20 yards away from the ball, sprint over there and see if you can get a piece of it. Well, them kids are absolutely doing that. It's 43-24, but I mean, Faith could have easily made that 43-0 if they really wanted to. And it's going to be really difficult to score on those guys. I mean, they don't blitz, they don't do a whole lot of fancy things, but they're always on the football.
You said that kid was the guy. He was a receiver too.
Yeah.
It looks like that could have been Edwin King.
Yeah.
No, that's Russian. Ja'Cory Stabler. Ja'Cory Stabler is what it is.
6'5". I don't know how big he is. He's huge.
So,
but that region is going to play out a lot because we Gulf Shores in general because Viger and they beat Blunt, which is a good rivalry over there. Blunt's always got good players. BC Rain, all those guys. I mean, they're not going to be, even though they did beat Excel, but I think they lost a lot of big guys. But I don't know. It's between Faith, Gulf Shores, and UMS Wright. In my opinion, the rest of them are kind of vying for the 4 seed.
Gotcha.
But let's see. Orange Beach wise, some of our local guys here, they lost to Milton, Florida, 7-0. And Orange Beach, even though they got 10 seniors on the team, which is really not a lot for a 4A school, and so they're still young. They had a play at the end of the game where they threw basically a jump ball to tie it up, and the kid came down with it for Orange Beach, but they called offensive pass interference.
Yeah, saw that.
And Milton, Florida hasn't really been awesome or anything, but Florida schools are class different than Alabama schools. It's just there's not as many of them, and so they get a larger group of kids to come out. Even though they have as many players, they have more kids to choose from a lot of times. But the problem with our region with Orange Beach is even if it's them and T.R. Miller and Jackson and Bayside, that's 4 pretty good teams. I expect that to be the 4 come out. The problem is I got to match up with Region 4 in the first round of playoffs. And in the rankings, there's 3: Jacksonville, Anniston, and Hanley. All 3 of those are ranked in the top 10. And so that means our 2, 3, and 4 seed, if you're not the winner out of our region, you're going to have a really, really difficult time in the first round of playoffs.
Oh.
So
And those are all teams that we had last year in the playoffs,
yeah,
which were, I mean, they're just kind of built that way. They kind of own.
yeah. Well, Orange Beach in general, though, I mean um, they're open this week. They don't play this week, and then they go to Jackson, and they have Satsuma and T.R. Miller and Mobile Christian. So they could be looking at sitting the start of October being
I
one
mean,
and four.
yeah,
1-4, and they still have Bayside Academy left. I think they'll beat St. Michael and Wilcox Central and Escambia County. But I mean, realistically, looking at these guys, just the way they played Friday night. I mean, defensively, I guess they're okay, but I mean, they're probably going to sit there and go 5-4 to end the season and be the 4 seed in the region, and then they have to go play Hanley or Anniston.
Aniston.
Yeah, one of those two. The first round end up 5-5. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, it's a far cry from what they did last year, but again, they're still a young team, and I think they're still a couple of years away. And Dubose, maybe he'll hang around long enough to do it. But
get things going. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Uh,
but outside of that, I mean, we have just ranking wise, you got Foley's number 10 in 7A. Spanish Fort fell out of the rankings in 6A. The UMS Wright and Gulf Shores, they're all ranked. Faith Academy is all ranked in 5A. And then, we don't really have a whole lot. There's no 4A teams down here that's making any noise. 3A, Mobile Christians ranked number 5 in 3A. And to me, they're always one you got to deal with. And I like the rankings for the AHSAA because they go off of last year's performance.
mm-hmm.
Like for instance, Theodore's ranked, or they were. I mean, they were ranked in the top 10 starting out the year. Or I guess they're still there. They're number 8 in 6A because they were the only ones who really gave Saraland a game last year. Twice they played them really, really well, but they go and they lose to Baker the first game of the year. So, their schedule doesn't do anything but really get more difficult. So I don't know. They probably won't hang out in that ranking very long, but
Right.
It was kind of crazy. You go to 5A and you want to talk about rankings. You got Gulf Shores, Beauregard, and let's see, even like Demopolis is ranked in the top 10. You got Central Clay County, who beat Gulf Shores and Beauregard last year.
Yep.
And they weren't even they're number 11 technically, but they're not even ranked ahead of those guys. I'm not real sure. I guess it's just maybe they lost a lot and so forth, but really got. I think Charles Henderson has a good game this week. Who is it? They have a decent matchup this week. I can't remember who it is.
I played Pike County this past week.
Yeah,
Whooped up on them pretty good.
yeah. Pike is kind of hit or miss these days just because of the influx of kids, and Charles Henderson is in Troy and Pike is in right outside of Troy, so they probably have cousins playing each other and so forth. So.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, high school football down here's kicked off pretty well, and I like how all the Mobile schools kind of play each other really early, kind of get a pecking order.
Yeah.
And Gulf Shores, I really think if they can, depending on what happens with Faith and UMS, they're sitting here at worst at 8-2, and at best they're sitting. They could potentially run the table because I don't think Viger and them's really going to mess with them that much, just because I think Gulf Shores are going to outcoach them. I mean, talking about they got Citronelle this week, which won't be a problem. Then they got Faith and UMS back to back. Then they have LaFleur, Murphy, Williamson, and Alberta. I mean, they got basically 4 weeks. Well, and then they got an open week, so they got 5 weeks to prepare for Viger because none of those guys are going to be very good. And BC Rain to end the season, and so that's like basically having a bye week rolling into the first round of playoffs.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, they definitely can set themselves up for. I mean, I guess I know UMS is in Gulf Shores. Is Faith on the road for them?
Faith is.
Or is it in Gulf Shores too? Because that could really.
They go to Faith.
Okay.
Yeah, UMS is at home,
Gotcha.
and Viger's at home. So. They
Well,
get
definitely be exciting. We definitely have some good opportunities to watch some good athletes down here. So it's you know if you're able to get out and get around to school, or I mean, it's the atmosphere at the Gulf Shores game was just it was wild. I mean, I know it was the first game of the season, um, but I mean, it was just there was people everywhere. You couldn't find a place to sit in the stands unless you went across to the visitor side. We kind of just hung on the around the fence, and let the kids run. But uh, it was just loud. The students were into it,
awesome.
so it was a lot of fun. Um, but there's a lot of good teams around our state too. I know there's a few that I kind of was surprised a little bit at the Auburn Hoover. I don't know if you saw any of that,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
I really kind of thought Auburn was gonna be a little closer, but kind of put a licking on them in Hoover. So
yeah,
Thompson did the same thing to Opelika. I kind of thought that game was going to be a little closer.
yeah,
Um, Saraland, they came back and they were behind. They came back and won with that. Uh, it's got the really good kid that's committed to Alabama too. So were we talking to that about that game prior? Where was that team
yeah,
from?
yeah. Lipscomb Academy. I think
Was
they're
that
from the Nashville area,
you said
and
Tennessee?
yeah, they were
Okay.
back-to-back state champs up there. They were 15-0 last year, um, and um, they played Saraland last year too, and kind of similar result. But yeah, I mean, if you go up to play a private school out of Nashville or the Tennessee area, I mean, that's really good football. I mean, they pull kids all over the state, and Saraland took them to overtime to do it. But yeah, they got the wideout and the quarterback. I think they're both committed to Alabama at this time. They're both
Hmm.
juniors, and they have. I mean, they got other players too, but I mean, they're super dynamic on offense. I mean, that Lipscomb Academy, they may not give up 30 points the rest of the year to anybody else they
Yeah.
play, and so yeah, what's Saraland? They get to play Murphy this coming weekend, and it's going to be like 60-10 or something. I mean, it's going to be it's not going to go well for those guys. But to me, Saraland, I'd like to see like Saraland and Thompson play. I think they're the two best teams, or in Auburn. I mean, I think they're the two best teams in the whole state. But Saraland's going to be really difficult to beat. I just don't foresee anybody down here beating them. Let's see. So they got St. Paul's and Spanish Fort, and they play Foley this year too. And even Foley, as dynamic as they are, they're not going to be good enough to play with. They're
Yeah.
not in the same region, but kudos to Foley for scheduling those guys. But it's really going to be a great test for Foley because they could both be undefeated rolling into that game, and you could have the number one 6A team um, versus maybe a top five 7A team going into week was at 6. So
Yep.
it would be good, yeah. But it's going to be exciting to see what the two kids from Saraland. We talk about them a year and a half from now when they're finishing their senior years, probably with 3 straight state championships. What kind of records they've broken? I mean, there will be
Broken.
two
Yep.
5-star kids throw the ball to one another for really 3 years. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the only other thing I had, I mean, it's just kind of a disappointment more than anything, was the cancellation of Thompson and IMG Academy. I think that was probably going to be on. That was on
Oh, I
TV,
guarantee
like
you, it's going to be
ESPN.
ESPN. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I saw it the other day, and so I hate they cancel that because there's going to be a lot of good talent on that field, and uh, just kind of see how Thompson finished up last year, and with that quarterback they have, and I was excited to see him. So I don't know. I doubt they'll reschedule it since it's not really a region game or anything like that. But
Nah,
that would have been exciting to see. So
yeah, but they still have a heck of a schedule too, though. Thompson does. I mean, they play a lot of really good schools. I mean, but it's good to see some of these schools playing teams outside of Tennessee. I mean, outside of Alabama, whether it's Tennessee or Georgia or the Florida schools. It's pretty neat. I think we play. Some of the West schools play Mississippi schools all the time. Mississippi, they're not
yeah,
as strong football wise as we are here. But yeah, like Opelika in general, man, I don't think they're as good as they have been in the past. You know, Eric, Speakman's been there for a little while. I mean, he took them. I mean, really, before he got there, Caleb Ross and when Blackman was there, they went to a couple state championships, or went to at least two of them. I remember. And he now that Speakman's up there, it just feels like they would never have lost 40 something to whatever to a team. 44 to 14.
Yeah.
And it just seems like last year went 5-5, didn't even make the playoffs, and so now that team's in general just got reeling, but they got pretty good at the region too. They played Jag this week, the team that Fate's pulled up on, so they'll probably beat them pretty good. But then after that, they got like Phoenix City, and they still got to play Auburn and Enterprise and all that. They may not make the playoffs.
Yeah, man. Well, that's kind of how it goes. You get kids that grow up and move in and move out, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to high school.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah.
Well, what else you got?
Man, that's really it. I mean, it's super early, but you kind of see who's got a plan and who doesn't right now. I'm kind of curious to see, 3 weeks from now, where some of these kids who have a lot of stats, where they end up, whether it's the kid from Faith or even the quarterback for UMS, or some of our kids at Gulf Shores, just kind of how they, if they continue to score a lot of points, or is that just like a week one thing? But, we'll see. I'm excited for region play. I really am. I mean, 2 weeks from now, whenever Gulf Shores and Faith and them play, it's going to be a heck of an atmosphere for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to try to get together for that one and get over there, sit down, and take it in. There's another. I was looking at something else too, which we didn't really talk. We talked a little bit on just Andalusia. I guess they didn't win state last year. Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was last year. It was like Cherokee County or somebody that was up on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got an Auburn committed running back. Yeah, he got hurt in the playoffs, and another kid kind of carried him through the state championship game. But he's back now, and he had 100-something yards rushing, a couple touchdowns against Opp, who's not.
I mean, like I said, I didn't even know they had a team.
Yeah, they're kind of in a region they can't handle right now. But I mean, they're better off in 3A, where they could play guys who they could compete with. But and the losers going to be really good. They're still in a really tough region. They still got Montgomery Catholic that's up in there with them, and really, they're going to be one that's going to. I mean, they're probably going to win pretty much every game they play, and them UMS Wright forever. They played in semifinals like 4 straight years or something at one time. But looking at Andalusia's schedule, I mean, the only team on there that can beat them is Montgomery Catholic. Everybody else on here is. I mean, they have Anniston week 2. It's a heck of a matchup. And I think they lost to Anniston last year in week 2 and ended up beating them in the playoffs later on like a miraculous comeback type of thing. They were down like 28-0. Andalusia ends up scoring it out and beating them at the end of the game on like a punt return or something. It's crazy. But, I mean, their worst case is going 8-2, but if they're 10-0, they're rolling through the playoffs, probably going to play Montgomery Catholic in the semifinals. So –
cool.
Yeah.
Well, you gonna hop on the live show tonight?
Yeah.
You up for 2 shows today?
Yeah, I don't mind. I enjoy it. But yeah, high school football, man. It's something to get you through the week. Whenever the rankings come out on Wednesdays, and then there's always games on Thursdays and Fridays, which is a Saturday for the college stuff. But it's fun to see what everybody's doing.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed getting into this the last couple of years, and just being here in the community. I think I said this last year. Just being kind of in a closer community, just makes it a little more exciting. And then you start getting into not just Gulf Shores and Baldwin County, but then you kind of start expanding. We start talking about different regions and whatnot. So, it gets pretty exciting, especially to see the talent that's out here and in the state right now. It's awesome. Yeah. So, well, good deal. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. We'll do this again. We'll get something. We'll see how these games go, and then hop back on next week for episode 2 of the Blitz.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, man. We'll holler at you later.
See you.
Thanks for watching, guys.